My understanding is children are getting healthcare there. I think they should get, I'm saddened to hear that report. If that's true, most of the reporting I've seen on these detention centers are that people are getting education and healthcare. So I, of course...
Well, look, I mean, I think both things can be true.
Leigh McGowan, better known as Politics Girl, joined Abby Phillips' show as a guest, where she completely dismantled the two confident MAGA supporters Abby had on the panel, Lydia Moynihan and Mr. Wonderful himself, Kevin O'Leary. Leigh McGowan didn't hold anything back and even laughed right in their faces as she challenged their arguments. She was absolutely outstanding throughout the discussion. We're going to watch a few clips from Leigh McGowan's appearance on Abby Phillips' show featuring Kevin O'Leary and the rest of the panel, and then I'll share my own thoughts on everything that happened. So let's get straight into it together.
I don't know that people really realize what kinds of numbers we are talking about here. We're talking about human beings being detained in these facilities. And it's been so interesting. You know, Social Circle, Georgia, this is one of the latest ones. The entire center is expected to hold 10,000 detainees. That is more than twice the entire population of the town. In Mississippi, Roger Wicker voiced concerns. He's a Republican. He's saying that 8,500 detainees of a town of 1,300 would strain local infrastructure. Hutchinson, Texas, 10,000 people. The city's population is 6,000. First of all, I think my main question is, why are we trying to house, detain, lock up, whatever you want to call it, tens of thousands of people at one time?
Yeah.
Indefinitely, it seems.
Why do we need facilities with 10,000 beds if the point is to deport people? That's an interesting question. Unless they're not planning to deport people.
The answer to that is because they get due process. It takes a little bit of time.
But unless they're not planning to deport people, do you think they're getting due process?
They're supposed to.
And the courts are pushing back hard on it.
Yeah, the courts have said, in fact, that in at least 4,421 cases, more than 400 federal judges say that ICE is holding people illegally. They are not getting due process. That's a real issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's a discredit to DHS and to DOJ that they're not getting people into court. Part of the problem is there's not enough judges, there's not enough facilities here.
And spend money on that instead of buying huge facilities to house people.
But here's the thing, let's be realistic. For the next 3 years, the Trump administration is going to continue to deport people in large numbers, whether people like it or not. And they're going to be housed somewhere while their cases play out. What's happening now is just as ugly. I mean, ICE and DHS are renting space a lot of times in county jails, in local prisons. They're incredibly overcrowded. I'm not saying this is a great thing, but I'm saying as a reality, as a practical matter, if there's going to be mass arrests and deportations, which there are, like it or not, it's not necessarily a bad thing to have new facilities to house those people. So you're not just cramming them into criminal prisons at the state and county level.
But the facilities they're building are going to be, I mean, the one we know that's been built since we've been in this past administration is what they call Alligator Alcatraz, which is, you know, it's a human rights violation waiting to happen every single frickin' day there. And that's what they're looking to do too. They won't let Congress people into the buildings where these facilities already exist. These are private organizations that are making bank off DHS. They're making so much money. We don't have money for education. We don't have money for healthcare. We don't have money for roads. We don't have money for any of that, but we have $38 billion to buy a whole bunch of buildings. And quite frankly, we're overpaying for them. DHS just bought an ICE detention warehouse for $128 million that sold for $29 million 2 years ago. So why are we spending $128 million on it today? These are questions that people need to answer because it seems very peculiar what we're doing and none of it seems good.
One of the biggest issues is also what's happening with children who are being detained in a lot of cases much longer than previously allowed by law. They're really not supposed to be held more than 20 days, and many of them are being held far longer than that. The Times had a piece this weekend that about the Dilley facility, which is one of the most notorious. Last month, an 18-month-old Dilley was taken to a regional children's hospital with dangerously low blood oxygen levels after her parents had begged for weeks for someone at the facility to address her illness. That's according to an emergency petition. A 35-year-old woman was released last week. She said medical staff initially refused to see her after she began hemorrhaging profusely, soaking through 6 sanitary pads in an hour. Eventually, she was taken to a hospital. And last summer, a 32-year-old man died at the Florence Center after being detained at a facility for roughly 3 weeks. Now, that facility is being run by a company called Core Civic, and they have a statement saying, nothing matters more to Core Civic than the health and safety of the people in our care. He says the facilities routinely pass government inspections, and the reports of substandard care are simply not reflective of the hard work their people do. DHS simply says in a statement, it is a choice to be detained, and people can simply self-deport. But I just ask, are we still good with holding children, some as young as 2 months old, for indefinite amounts of time in any kind of facility that is basically a jail?
Look, I don't like hearing those stories. I want everyone to be safe and get the healthcare and what they need. I think it is a reminder, though, that we frankly don't have the resources to provide healthcare for the millions of illegal people who came in here. And on the other point of
The United States gross domestic product stands at roughly $34 trillion this year. So the claim that the country simply doesn't have enough money to pay for anything is completely ridiculous. That argument just doesn't hold up when you look at the size and strength of the American economy.
Just in general, it's interesting. I mean, for years, the media ignored these stories about people who were complaining, whether it was in Texas on a border state or Springfield, Ohio, of immigrants who were flooding their towns and they didn't have resources at all.
But you're being asked about children in a detention center, not
was
about
never
immigrants
covered.
taking healthcare.
And now
That was covered.
it
was covered.
It was ridiculed. People who
It was definitely covered.
people who were trying to arrest the border
The question
walls
is,
in
should
their
we be keeping
facility
children in
Texas.
detention facilities without the proper health care?
I think I would like, my understanding is children are getting health care there. I think
not.
they should get, I'm saddened to hear of that report. If that's true, most of the reporting I've seen on these detention centers are that people are getting education and health care. So I, of course,
Well, look, I mean, look.
Leigh McGowan points to what may be the most effective way to deal with the endless nonsense, false claims, spin, and twisted logic coming from MAGA figures like Leigh Moynihan. Simply laugh right in their faces. Their arguments are often so unbelievable that they practically fall apart on their own. McGowan also mentions that in Nazi Germany, the original plan was to deport people, but over time the regime decided that approach was too difficult, which eventually led to the creation of concentration camps. She presents that historical example as something people should seriously think about when looking at what is happening today. McGowan also argues that, like so many other issues in the United States, especially during the Trump administration, someone is making money from the entire system. The more undocumented immigrants there are, the more people can be detained and placed in facilities, and the longer they remain there, the more profit is generated. According to her, that's exactly how the system is designed to work, especially in Trump's America.
Getting education.
I would blame these parents, though, for putting their children in this position.
Hold on. Look, there are at least some cases. There's one case where a family had, during the Biden administration, had come through the CBP-1 app. They had been inspected. They had gone through the application. They were told they could come into the country, and now they are being detained with their young child in a detention facility. Now, you can disagree with the actions of the Biden administration, but what is the point of punishing children for their parents doing something that was the illegal process at the time and putting them in, again, regardless of how many nurses they have or books they have in these facilities, these are jails.
Abby, when you're dealing with millions of people, there's always going to be horrific stories like this. That's not going to stop. I think a bigger issue
is there
a middle ground
is an issue here,
Listen to this. I mean, I talked to a farmer from Iowa last week while I was in Florida, and he told me that if we threw out all of the people that work on his farms, we wouldn't eat anymore. And so what he's asking for is, say, wait a second, if this person came into the country, is supporting a family, never broke a law, is there some kind of middle ground to help him get his papers as a citizen, perhaps, while he works and feeds America? That was his question. I said,
it's a good question, but Trump promised mass deportation.
Remember, if you broke a law, if you actually are found in, I don't know, ICE or some other law enforcement entity, and you clearly came here illegally and you broke a law, I'm sorry, you're gone. You may have to stop in one of these facilities, but Trump campaigned on this mandate, and the general public agreed when he came in that he would enforce these rules against illegal immigrants. But if the ones that did this came in illegally and broke the law, they have to be treated differently.
But Kevin, which one are you, though? Is it the man who has the farmers that have a way, or is it the people that are coming in illegally and are committing crimes? Because those are two different people that you were just talking about.
That's what I just said. So you should process the ones that have clearly off.
Kevin O'Leary comes across as completely clueless here, and Leigh McGowan doesn't waste a second calling him out. She's essentially telling him, you're saying two totally different things. You're contradicting your own argument. But that's exactly the pattern Kevin O'Leary keeps repeating, making points that don't even line up with each other.
Everybody.
Immigration reform.
I just want to stop pretending like we just treat everybody so well, in our prison system, including, those who are American citizens. There's a documentary right now, about the Alabama inmates I'm sure you've seen on how they're being treated, within our facilities. Let's stop acting like there's not something called the
American
private.
Citizens
Yes, American citizens.
Break the law and go to prison?
No, everybody doesn't always break the law and go to prison. See, that's where you've been so focused on the Dow and haven't been focused on what's actually happening.
I'm focused on breaking the law.
No.
You shouldn't break the law if you want to stay out of prison.
And I'm focused on something called due process and focused on people who are getting incarcerated before they're actually found guilty. Something called where people can't
So
afford
you're okay
bail.
if somebody murders
no,
somebody
I didn't say
and they
that.
shouldn't
I didn't
go
say
to
nothing about
prison?
no murder. Here you go
Well, how
again
about
picking
that?
up. Well, I'll give you a real time. No,
All right,
I didn't
let me
say
just
break
let
the law.
Tezlyn finish
I said
her
that
thought. We're almost out of time.
everybody don't break the law and just go to prison. It doesn't work that way. It may work that way. It may work that way. Yeah, they absolutely do.
They get a trial first.
Breaking news.
Actually.
No, they don't. See, that's where you're getting confused.
We're not in America anymore.
That's right. Now you finally got a round of applause.
What country are you
now
talking
he finally
about?
the country that I've been living in, that my ancestors have been in.
That is not how America works.
Oh, see, that hasn't how it worked for you.
Kevin,
That's how it hasn't worked for you.
Kevin, hang on a
Goes
second.
back to the Dow.
Is we have an appellate
It hasn't worked for
hang on
you.
a
See,
second.
that's the system that has worked for you. That's not the system that
We are
hasn't
getting
worked for me.
derailed. Just a
Yeah, because we're
second.
getting
Just a
derailed and we're
second.
really about to go there.
Just a
So let's.
All right, we're just talking about we're talking about a lot of different things here. Okay, she's making a legitimate point that some people stay in prison even when they're not having a trial, and that's a controversial issue.
To prison, don't break the law.
Right.
Okay,
See, this is where
it's
he
called
gets
innocent
confused.
until proven
Right.
guilty. That is a
And
principle.
you get
that
a
exists
trial in
this
America.
country.
Yes, but Kevin,
exactly.
we have the
All right.
highest prison population in the
Yes,
world.
we
It
do.
is a giant moneymaker for the prison industrial
Then
complex.
let's open
and
the
if you are
gates
paid
and let
per
everybody
prisoner,
out again and start again.
Oh my
All right, we
God,
gotta
there you
go,
go
my
again.
friend.
And yes, then let's have no prisons at all. That's what
Coming
I'm
up
saying.
for us, a federal judge has invoked.
And of course, Kevin O'Leary falls back on the same tired tactic that so many MAGA supporters love to use. He immediately jumps to an extreme and acts like, oh, so you just want to get rid of all laws and close every prison? That's not what anyone is saying. Everyone agrees that people who commit real and serious crimes should face prison. Tezlyn Figaro quickly shuts Kevin O'Leary down and calls out his dishonest framing, while Leigh McGowan pushes back against the same misleading narrative. Their point is straightforward. People shouldn't be locked away in detention centers that are often even harsher than prisons when many of them are simply here working and trying to earn a living. As Kevin O'Leary himself admitted earlier, even farmers have said they depend on these workers. In many cases, the only law these people have broken, from the perspective of the United States, is crossing the border without authorization. Even more often, many enter the country legally by plane or boat, stayed after their visas expired, and have not committed any other crimes. Kevin O'Leary is never going to mention that undocumented immigrants are often found to commit crimes at lower rates than U.S. citizens, probably because he either doesn't know the facts or simply doesn't care. It actually makes sense because most of them want to avoid any attention from law enforcement. But Kevin O'Leary has no interest in talking about that reality, especially given how closely he has aligned himself with Donald Trump. I really enjoyed watching Leigh McGowan break down the arguments made by both Lydia Moynihan and Kevin O'Leary, and Tezlyn Figaro also did an outstanding job pushing back against their claims. Like I said earlier, there may not be a better way to respond to dishonest and misleading arguments than to laugh right in their faces, exactly the way Leigh McGowan did. Let me know what you think. Did you enjoy the way Leigh McGowan and Tezlyn Figaro handled Kevin O'Leary and Lydia Moynihan on Abby Phillips' show? Share your opinion in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more.